There's a silent struggle that men go through every day, a battle no one sees, a pain no one acknowledges. He smiles, he provides, he leads, and he fights, but deep inside he is dying. He pretends it doesn't hurt, but it's killing him. Society has trained him to be strong. Don't cry. Be a man. Figure it out. So he carries the weight of expectations, responsibilities, and unspoken burdens. And while he holds everything together, he is silently falling apart. How many men are suffering in silence? How many fathers, husbands, brothers, and leaders are bleeding on the inside while entire and whole on the outside? They wake up, go to work, provide, and protect, but no one asks, are you okay? No one says, how can I help you? There is a pain that no one sees, a burden that no one acknowledges. It is hidden behind smiles, behind responsibilities, behind the silent expectation that he must always have it together. He walks through life carrying a weight that grows heavier each day, yet no one stops to ask if he's tired. He laughs with friends, provides for his family, leads in his community, but deep inside he is breaking. He suffers in silence while pretending to be strong. From a young age, he was taught that tears are a sign of weakness. That showing emotion makes him less of a man. That admitting struggle is failure. So he learned to suppress, to bury, to ignore. He mastered the art of looking whole while feeling empty. He built walls so high that even those closest to him could not see what was really happening inside. But let me tell you something, pain doesn't disappear just because you refuse to acknowledge it. Pain unspoken is pain that multiplies. How many men are living but not alive? How many are sitting in rooms filled with people yet feel completely alone? They wake up every morning and do what is expected. They show up, they work, they lead, they provide, but no one notices that every day a little more of them fades away. And the world applauds them for their strength. You're such a strong man. You never complain. You always handle everything so well, but what they don't see is that this strength is often just survival. It is not peace. It is not joy. It is not fulfillment. When did we start measuring a man's worth by how much pain he can endure without breaking? There are men who are successful in business but empty in their souls. There are men who have built houses but have no home within themselves. There are men who have achieved great things, yet when they lie down at night, they feel nothing. Because suffering in silence does not make you strong. It only makes you distant from yourself, from those who love you, and from the life you were meant to live. This is why so many men collapse under the weight of unspoken burdens. Not because they are weak, but because even the strongest structure will crumble if the foundation is neglected. It's time to stop pretending that pain doesn't exist. It's time to stop wearing a mask of strength while you are dying inside. It's time to stop believing the lie that suffering alone makes you a man. Real strength is not in pretending. Real strength is in confronting, in acknowledging the pain, in seeking healing. Because a man who refuses to heal will only pass down his wounds to those who love him. How much longer will you suffer in silence? How much longer will you let unspoken pain shape your life? How much longer will you pretend it doesn't hurt when deep down you know it's killing you? You were never designed to carry this alone. You were created to live in peace, to lead in wholeness, and to walk in freedom. But that can only happen when you make the choice to stop pretending and start healing. The pain stops where the healing begins. There is one truth that many refuse to face. Pain does not go away just because it is ignored. Pain unspoken does not disappear. It does not fade with time. Instead, it buries itself deep within, growing stronger, shaping thoughts, controlling emotions, and silently destroying from the inside out. A man can wake up every morning, go to work, provide for his family, lead his home, and accomplish great things, yet still be fighting a battle that no one sees. He walks through life with wounds that have never healed, scars that have never been acknowledged, and burdens that were never meant to be carried alone. But he tells himself, I'm fine. He convinces himself it doesn't matter. He assures himself, I'll deal with it later. But later never comes. Pain that is left unchecked becomes poison to the soul. It doesn't stay in one place. It spreads into his relationships, into his decisions, into his view of himself, into his future. A man who refuses to deal with pain eventually sees life through the lens of that pain. He becomes defensive, guarded, angry, detached, not because he is heartless, but because he is hurting. And the world around him suffers for it. How many fathers have lost their connection with their children, not because they didn't love them, but because they never dealt with their own wounds? How many husbands have become distant from their wives, not because they wanted to, but because their pain built a wall so high they could no longer reach for help? How many leaders, pastors, and men of influence have fallen, not because they lacked talent, but because unresolved pain led them to make destructive choices? Pain unaddressed is a disaster waiting to happen. It may not show itself today. It may not explode tomorrow, but it will always find a way to manifest. Sometimes it comes out in anger. Sometimes it comes out in addictions. Sometimes it comes out in isolation. And sometimes it just turns into a slow, silent death, a man who looks alive on the outside but is completely numb on the inside. This is why so many men struggle with emotions they cannot explain. Restlessness, anxiety, frustration, emptiness. They have convinced themselves that they are fine, yet deep inside something feels off. They can't quite put it into words, but they know something is missing. That missing piece is healing. Ignoring pain does not build strength. It only builds walls that keep people out, walls that block love, walls that prevent growth. A man who does not confront his pain will eventually pass it down to those he loves. His son will learn silence from him. His daughter will struggle to understand him. His wife will feel disconnected from him. Not because he is a bad man, but because brokenness that is not healed will always break something else. So the question is, how long will you let pain control your life? How long will you allow the past to dictate your future? How long will you carry what is slowly killing you? Pain must be faced. It must be acknowledged. It must be healed. Because until it is, it will continue to shape every part of a man's life. And if he is not careful, it will rob him of the joy, peace, and fulfillment he was meant to have. You were never designed to live with hidden wounds. You were created for wholeness. But wholeness does not come through pretending. It comes through healing. It comes through surrender. It comes through the decision to no longer carry what was never meant to be yours. The pain stops where the healing begins. From the moment a boy takes his first steps, the world begins to shape him. It tells him what he can and cannot feel, what he should and should not express. Be strong. Don't cry. Man up. These words are spoken so often that they become ingrained in his identity. As he grows, he learns that the world does not give space for a man's emotions. If he feels pain, he must hide it. If he struggles, he must push through in silence. If he is afraid, he must never admit it. Because to show weakness is to risk respect. To express pain is to invite shame. And so he learns to wear the mask. He smiles when he wants to break down. He laughs when he feels like screaming. He says, I'm good when he is anything but. He becomes a master of pretending. Society rewards him for it. Look at him, they say, always strong, always handling things well. No one sees the exhaustion in his eyes. No one hears the silent cries behind his laughter. He has been trained to suppress, to bury, to endure. But what happens to a man who spends his life suppressing pain? What happens to the emotions that are never released, the wounds that are never healed? They don't disappear. They don't vanish with time. They become something else. For some, they turn into anger, anger that erupts at the slightest irritation, anger that destroys relationships, anger that builds walls where bridges should be. For others, they turn into addiction, a desperate escape through alcohol, drugs, work, or distractions that numb the pain but never heal it. And for many, they turn into emptiness, a slow, quiet death, where nothing excites them anymore, where life feels like an obligation instead of a gift. All because society told them, you're a man. You don't get to feel that way. But let me tell you something, the ability to feel is not a weakness. It is a gift. Pain is not meant to be ignored. It is meant to be healed. And true strength is not in silence, but in surrender. How many men are walking through life carrying wounds from their childhood, wounds from a father who never affirmed them, wounds from a mother who never embraced them, wounds from a world that only valued them for what they could produce, but never for who they truly were. They are told to be providers, to be leaders, to be protectors. But who protects them? Who provides for their emotional needs? Who gives them permission to say, I'm hurting without fear of judgment? And so they suffer alone. They carry burdens they were never meant to carry. They pretend to be unshaken while slowly crumbling on the inside. But silence does not heal. Pretending does not restore. Ignoring does not make it go away. A man who does not acknowledge his wounds will pass them down to his children. His son will learn to suppress. His daughter will never understand his distance. His wife will feel the weight of his unspoken pain. This is why healing is not an option, it is a necessity. A man cannot fully walk in his purpose if he is still shackled by the pain he refuses to acknowledge. He cannot love freely if he is afraid of being vulnerable. He cannot lead well if he has never learned to release what is killing him. So my question to you is this: how much longer will you let the world tell you that you must suffer in silence? How much longer will you pretend that pain does not exist? How much longer will you let the wounds of the past shape your future? You were never meant to carry this alone. You were never meant to live in silent suffering. You were created to be whole, to be strong in truth, not in pretense. The world may have told you to bury your pain, but I am here to tell you it's time to let it go. It's time to heal. It's time to live. The pain stops where the healing begins, Keith. A man can have everything the world calls success, wealth, status, influence, but still wake up every morning feeling empty. He can sit in a beautiful home, drive the finest car, wear the best suits, and still feel like something is missing. He can reach the highest levels of power, be respected by many, be admired by those around him, and yet when he is alone, he feels nothing. Because success without peace is still emptiness. How many men are chasing after things they thought would make them happy, only to find themselves more exhausted, more frustrated, and more disconnected from true joy? They told themselves, once I get this job, I'll be satisfied. Once I make this amount of money, I'll finally have peace. Once I prove myself to the world, I'll feel whole. But they reach those milestones, and instead of peace, they feel a greater void. Instead of fulfillment, they feel a deeper hunger. Because peace is not found in things. A bigger house does not bring rest to a weary soul. A higher income does not remove the weight of unresolved pain. More accomplishments do not heal the wounds that have never been confronted. A man can surround himself with luxury and still feel like a prisoner inside his own mind. How many men are running after success? Not because they truly desire it, but because they are trying to escape their pain. They drown themselves in work so they don't have to think. They keep themselves busy so they don't have to feel. They tell themselves, if I can just keep going, I won't have to deal with what's really happening inside. But no matter how much they achieve, the pain is still there. It follows them into the night. It lingers in the quiet moments. It shows up when no one else is around, because success cannot replace healing. How many times have we seen men who had everything fall apart? Wealthy businessmen who are miserable. Famous celebrities who struggle with depression. Powerful leaders who secretly battle addictions. To the world, they look successful. To the world, they have it all. But internally, they are crumbling, because success can never substitute for inner peace. A man can climb the highest mountain, but if he has no peace, he will still feel lost. A man can gain the world, but if he loses himself in the process, what has he really gained? That is why true success is not about what you acquired, it's about who you become. True success is not about how much you own, it is about how whole you are. The greatest tragedy is not a man who fails. The greatest tragedy is a man who succeeds in everything except himself. A man who builds an empire but never finds joy. A man who gains power but never finds peace. A man who wins in the eyes of the world but loses in the depths of his own soul. So the question is, what are you chasing? Are you running after something that will truly fulfill you, or are you trying to escape from something you don't want to face? Are you building a life of real success, or are you only collecting achievements that mean nothing when the lights go off and the crowd is gone? Because real success is not found in things. Real success is found in wholeness, in peace, in healing, in knowing who you are beyond what you do. A man who has peace needs nothing else to validate him. But a man without peace will always be searching for something to fill the emptiness inside. It's time to stop chasing what cannot satisfy. It's time to stop running from what needs to be healed. It's time to stop thinking that success will bring peace when in reality, only peace can bring true success. The pain stops where the healing begins. For too long, men have been told that strength is the ability to endure pain without showing it. That being strong means suppressing emotions, hiding struggles, and pretending that everything is fine when, in reality, it is not. They have been conditioned to believe that real men don't cry, real men don't break, real men don't ask for help. And so they suffer in silence. They wake up every morning, put on their best face, go to work, lead their families, handle responsibilities, but inside they are barely holding on. They convince themselves that if they just keep moving forward, the pain will eventually disappear. If they just keep pushing, one day the burden will feel lighter. But pain does not go away by being ignored. A man who hides his pain is not stronger than the man who faces it. The truth is, it takes more strength to confront what is hurting you than to suppress it. It takes more courage to say, I need help, than to suffer alone. It takes more wisdom to seek healing than to pretend the wound isn't there. The world has glorified silent suffering for too long. It has told men that true masculinity is the ability to endure pain without ever speaking about it. But this is not strength. This is bondage. How many men have been destroyed not because of external attacks, but because of internal wounds they never addressed? How many marriages have fallen apart, not because of a lack of love, but because one or both partners were carrying unspoken pain? How many fathers have been emotionally distant, not because they didn't care, but because they never learned how to process what was hurting them? Pain that is not confronted does not stay hidden. It finds a way to manifest. It turns into anger, into addictions, into depression, into numbness. And a man who refuses to deal with his pain will eventually hurt those around him, even if he never intended to. Because unhealed wounds bleed onto people who never caused them. Real strength is not the absence of pain. Real strength is acknowledging the pain and deciding to heal. It is choosing to confront what is breaking you instead of letting it control your life. It is understanding that seeking help is not weakness, it is wisdom. But so many men hesitate to take that step because they have been told that asking for help makes them less of a man, that going to counseling is unnecessary, that talking about struggles is pointless, that all they need to do is be tough and keep going. But let me ask you this, what is tougher? Pretending that everything is fine while falling apart inside, or having the courage to address what is slowly killing you? What is more powerful? Ignoring a wound until it destroys you, or taking the steps to heal before it's too late? A strong man is not the one who suffers in silence. A strong man is the one who recognizes that silence is not the answer. A strong man is not the one who refuses to cry. A strong man is the one who understands that emotions are not a sign of weakness, but a part of being human. Too many men have lost themselves trying to live up to an unrealistic expectation of strength. They have suppressed their pain for so long that they no longer recognize who they are without it. They have carried burdens for so many years that they don't know how to function without them. But it does not have to be this way. It is time to redefine what strength truly is. It is time to let go of the idea that silence is power. It is time to understand that healing is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Because a man who is whole is stronger than a man who is pretending. A man who has faced his pain is wiser than a man who has buried it. A man who has healed is freer than a man who is still running. So the question is, how much longer will you choose suffering over healing? How much longer will you carry what is too heavy to bear alone? How much longer will you pretend you are fine when deep inside you know you are not? The world does not need more men who are silently suffering. The world needs more men who are truly strong, men who choose healing over hiding, men who walk in wholeness instead of brokenness, men who know that real strength is not in concealing pain but in confronting it. The pain stops where the healing begins. There's a moment in every man's life when he looks at himself in the mirror and realizes that he is not who he used to be. The fire that once burned in his eyes has dimmed. The passion that once drove him has weakened. The joy he once felt has been replaced with a quiet exhaustion. But he tells himself this is just life. He convinces himself that this is how things are supposed to be, that with time, dreams fade, excitement lessens, and the weight of responsibility replaces the energy of youth. He assumes that what he feels is normal, that everyone reaches a point where life just becomes about survival rather than fulfillment. And so he keeps going. Day after day, he wakes up, goes to work, handles his duties, provides for his family, leads where he is needed, and does what is expected of him. He smiles when he should. He nods when required. He keeps moving forward, but something is missing. And no matter how much he tries to ignore it, the feeling does not go away. It shows up in the quiet moments when the noise of the world fades and he is left alone with his thoughts. It lingers in the background of every success, whispering, "Is this really all there is?" It appears when he looks at his family, his career, his achievements, and wonders why he still feels empty. Because deep down, he knows that somewhere along the way he lost himself. Maybe it happened when life demanded more from him than he was prepared to give. Maybe it happened when he was forced to bury his own desires to meet the needs of others. Maybe it happened when he sacrificed his dreams in order to survive. Whatever the reason, he now finds himself living a life that looks complete on the outside but feels incomplete on the inside. And he is afraid to admit it, because admitting it feels like failure. He thinks to himself, how can I feel this way when I have so much? He reminds himself of all the things he has accomplished, all the people who depend on him, all the responsibilities he carries. He tells himself that he should be grateful, that he has no reason to feel this way. But gratitude does not erase emptiness. Success does not replace purpose. A man can have everything and still feel lost if he has forgotten who he truly is. Too many men are walking through life as shadows of themselves, functioning but not truly living, present but not fully engaged. They have lost their fire. They have buried their passion. They have settled for a version of themselves that was never meant to be their final state. But here's the truth. You were not created just to exist. You were created to live, to thrive, to walk in fullness. And if you have lost yourself, you can find yourself again. But it will not happen by accident. It will not happen by ignoring the signs. It will not happen by continuing to push forward without addressing what is really happening inside. It requires a decision to stop pretending, a decision to acknowledge the emptiness, a decision to no longer accept a life that does not reflect the purpose you were meant to walk in. Because the moment a man decides to reclaim himself, everything begins to change. His perspective shifts. His passion radiates, his energy returns, and he begins to live again, not just for others, not just for obligations, but for himself, for his calling, for the life he was meant to have. So the question is, how much longer will you allow yourself to live in survival mode? How much longer will you pretend that this is enough? How much longer will you deny yourself the joy, the fire, the purpose that was always meant to be yours? You don't have to stay lost. You don't have to settle. You don't have to accept emptiness as your reality. You can find yourself again. You can be whole again. You can live again. The pain stops where the healing begins. A man can only carry so much before the weight begins to break him. He can only suppress his struggles for so long before they demand to be acknowledged. He can only pretend to be strong for so many years before the exhaustion sets in. Yet, he continues. He wakes up every day, puts on the mask, and walks into the world like nothing is wrong. He does what is expected. He provides, he leads, he protects, he gives, he carries the burdens of others while neglecting his own. He tells himself, I have to be strong. He convinces himself that breaking is not an option, that pausing is a luxury he cannot afford. So he pushes through. But there comes a moment when he realizes he is not just tired. He is not just stressed. He is drained, empty, running on fumes. And no matter how much he tries to keep going, something inside him is shutting down. Because the soul was never designed to function without rest. The heart was never meant to hold pain without release. The mind was never created to carry the weight of unspoken struggles indefinitely. Yet, too many men suffer in silence. They ignore the signs, the exhaustion, the frustration, the disconnection from joy. They tell themselves it's just a phase, that they will be fine, that they just need to push a little harder, hold on a little longer. But pain does not disappear with time. Burnout does not resolve itself. Emotional exhaustion does not heal on its own. There is a breaking point. And if a man does not stop before he reaches it, the cost will be greater than he ever imagined. For some, the cost is their health. The stress they ignored for years manifests in sickness, in heart problems, in mental breakdowns. For others, the cost is their relationships. The distance that was once small becomes too great to bridge. The emotional disconnect too deep to repair. And for many, the cost is their purpose. They no longer dream, no longer strive, no longer see a future beyond their exhaustion. Because when a man is depleted, he stops living and starts surviving. He loses sight of his vision. He becomes numb to what once made him come alive. He functions, but he is not present. He exists, but he is not truly alive. And the world tells him to just keep going. But real strength is not found in enduring until the collapse. Real strength is found in knowing when to pause, when to heal, when to kill, and not keep carrying everything alone. A man must learn to rest, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. He must learn that taking a moment to breathe is not failure, that asking for help is not weakness, that allowing himself to feel is not shameful. Because the strongest men are not the ones who never break. They're the ones who know when to stop, when to release, when to rebuild. How many men have lost themselves because they refused to pause? How many have sacrificed their peace because they thought rest was not an option? How many have silently suffered while the world applauded their ability to endure? But endurance without restoration is destruction. A man who never heals will eventually be broken by the very things he refused to confront. A man who never pauses will eventually collapse under the weight of what he never released. A man who never allows himself to rest will never reach the fullness of who he was created to be. It is not enough to survive. You were meant to live. So the question is, how much longer will you pretend you are fine when you know you are not? How much longer will you carry the weight alone when help is available? How much longer will you tell yourself that pausing is weakness when, in truth, it is wisdom? Because a man who knows when to heal, when to rest, when to release, he is the one who will rise stronger than ever before. He is the one who will walk in true power. He is the one who will not just survive, but thrive. And that is the man you were meant to be. The pain stops where the healing begins. My friends, life was never meant to be lived in silent suffering. You were not created to carry pain without healing, to endure struggles without release, or to pretend you are strong while breaking inside. True strength is not found in how much you can suppress it. It's found in your willingness to confront, to heal, and to grow. A man who buries his pain will eventually be buried by it. But a man who faces his wounds will rise stronger, wiser, and freer than ever before. The time for pretending is over. The time for masking the hurt has passed. Now is the time for healing. Now is the time to reclaim your joy, your peace, your passion. You do not have to do this alone. You do not have to suffer in silence. There is freedom on the other side of pain. There is life beyond the exhaustion. There is purpose beyond the struggles. But it begins when you make the choice to stop running and start healing. Because the greatest version of you is not the one who carries the most, but the one who has been set free. I pray that you find that freedom, that you walk in strength and restoration, that you become whole again, that you live fully, love deeply, and rise into the man you were always meant to be. Good luck on your journey. And thank you.